Hello and welcome to Default Assault, where we take on everything by default. I'm your host, Demosthenes, and with me, as always, is Mr. Kyle Nash. How's it going, Kyle?
Good evening, Demos. I'm not doing the whole thing again. It was funnier the first time we did Hitchcock, so let's do this, man. I'm ready to get back.
Awesome. And with us, a very special guest is Mr. TJ. How's it going, TJ?
Feeling good, man.
In commemoration of tonight's episode, I had myself a delicious, hearty chicken sandwich. Tonight, we will be talking about Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds. Besides Psycho, it is probably his most famous film to newbies, more or less. It is one of the more iconic films that the Master of Suspense fashioned. Now, I'm curious, had any of you actually seen The Birds before this? Kyle?
The answer to that is not really. My dad was watching it one time when I was really young, and it was hard for me to actually even try to take it seriously. Because I was like 10 or something, and I'm like, wait, not that I could articulate it this well or this vulgarly, but like, you know, it's like they're birds. Why in the hell am I scared? Right? What is? No, I'm out. Whatever. You know,
I think that's kind of the point in a way.
Right. And I wasn't, I mean, I'm 10. I can't grasp that the whole concept of, first of all, I didn't even know what a Hitchcock was, let alone what was a person, and let alone that said in the wrong context could sound like something that belongs on Urban Dictionary. So I had no concept, literally none, of any direction that could go. Saying.
That's true. I mean, if Hitchcock made a film called The Chipmunks, I'd be, unless they're singing, well, actually, especially if they're singing, I'd be a little more frightened, but never.
Tell you.
TJ, had you seen The Birds?
I feel like Kyle, man. It's like it's like just a tip. I saw it, in passing. It's one of those things like, when I was a pup, I told you all that I was introduced to horror movies and all that jazz really early. But this is one like Kyle that I really couldn't necessarily get into because at that time, I was watching Ninja Turtles and whatnot. So the whole birds flying around like that, it wasn't hitting for me.
I saw when I was much younger during my Hitchcock phase. The Birds was one of the ones I knew about beforehand. That and Psycho. And I'll be honest, when I saw it as a kid, I just didn't. It didn't really click with me. Possibly because it is very atypical Hitchcock. Most of his other films fall within a deeper realm of plausibility. And the idea of a bunch of little birdies suddenly going nuts and attacking people. Yeah, it's not like there are any supernatural elements to it, but it just didn't click with me as hard as something like Psycho or Strangers on a Train and so forth. On this more recent viewing, I have to say that I suddenly started seeing a lot of the elements that I think gave it the acclaim that it has achieved. Whether or not these elements have now made it one of my more favorite Hitchcock films, we will discuss.
We're going to go all this time and not even cite the part where TJ said he got just the tip of the Hitchcock. No one's going to bring that up.
So now that you've both seen the film in its full glory, what do you think of it?
First of all, I want the record to show I'm not going to do anything bold, like say it's a bad movie or a boring movie or anything like that. Because in truth, it's neither. Okay. But man, what in the entire hell did I watch? What exactly happened? I don't want to make you give me back the time, Demos, because frankly, I still don't know what it was. That's where I'm at. My voice even just kind of cracked there. That was crazy. But look, and let me break down what I mean. First of all, here's why this movie isn't bad. It's the way it's a very rare case where the tactics and actual filmmaking elements The suspense was held. And keep in mind, folks, he does this on the strength of a bunch of frickin' birds. He's able to hold suspense. The Master of Suspense therein, not just a clever nickname. And as violent and intimidating as one can make a damn seagull look, it's impressive that they managed to do something to get that out of it. The visual look for what they did with the birds and certain things mostly held up. I mean, and keeping in mind the film's 50 years old or something, it still holds up relatively well.
More.
I take nothing away from it.
Oh, real quick, I got to point something out about that. This will be nobody's gonna be surprised that I point this out, but the special effects for the birds were headed by Ub Iwerks. He was one of the earliest Disney animators. In fact, the primary animator for a lot of the early Mickey Mouse shorts, going all the way back to Plane Crazy and Steamboat Willie.
Wow.
I truly hope so. If that's the kind of work he can do, man. No, and it was amazing. But this was a movie where the overarching plot in general took you a lot of places to basically go nowhere. But the tactics used within each scene, again, I think I've come to this place with the Hitchcock film before. It was strung together in such a loose way, in order to acquire certain moments, and man, they land. And that's why I can't completely say the movie's bad, because it grips my attention no matter how much I regret it when I see the end of the movie. And I'll leave that at that.
So you're essentially heaping praise on the individual set pieces, but not the overarching connection between them.
Correct.
So, looking at the characters, like your main character, Melanie, right? So, she's at the pet shop, which is cool because it's Friday and she goes to pet shops on Fridays. So she goes to the pet shop. She finds this stranger. They have the whole meet cute thing, and then she goes and buys 2 birds on a whim. Has her homeboy look up his license plate. Goes to his house. Finds out that he's not home. Finds out where he is. Drives 60 miles up the coastline on a whim. She doesn't know if this dude is elbow deep in some strange. She doesn't know if he has a man friend on the side. She doesn't know anything. He could be a cult leader. She just jumped in the whip, drove up the coastline on a whim. Let me say that again with the hella H behind the W. On a whim. She drove upstate not knowing what she was driving into. And it was okay. And then whenever she got to, we're going to call it Montego Bay, but that's not what it is.
Bay.
Bodega Bay, baby. Bodega Bay. So when she got to the bodega, she goes to the post office. Why? Because that's what you do when when you want to find out where somebody lives, you go to the post office, people. This is Stalking 101. If you don't know, you can watch Hitchcock and get Stalking 101. So she goes to the post office. She finds out where he lives. He says, follow this road. She says, nah, I don't want them to know I'm coming. So she gets on a boat. It's entirely too much stuff going on with Melanie right there, bro.
You didn't get to the craziest part where she broke into the house.
No. That ain't even the crazy. First of all, she didn't break in. The door was open and she just walks in. I mean, Goldie walks right out of the 3 friggin' bears, and I'm actively in the middle of reading that story to teach my 4-year-old not to do that shit. No, that's bad enough. This bitch goes to the local school marm's house.
There you go.
Down the name of her what? Of this guy's it gotta be 20 years younger sister. I don't know. Shit happens. Whatever. I don't want to make this an episode of Jerry Springer, and gets her sister's name in order to circumvent but I'm done.
I'm pretty sure it's Alice. No. It's Lucille. No, her name is Alice. I don't even know what you're going there for. It's Alice. No, it was Kathy.
You know, if the sexes were reversed, this would be the first true Me Too movie.
What?
Yeah, because she did not stop She did not stop. You talking The Hand That Rocks the Cradle, Single White Female, all these movies where we see the woman as being portrayed in a negative light for going above and beyond. This woman, everybody's cool with it. She lied about knowing Amy. She didn't know Amy or Annie. Annie, the teacher, the school mom. So she lied about knowing Anne and said, we went to school together. And everything was cool. And then you find out she's in a lie. Like, this whole thing is just, I've been waiting all my life for an opportunity to say asinine, and this is it. It is asinine. But it's a film, so what do you expect?
By the way, real quick, I'm going to put some cool whip on your whim allegory. Blah. Message. Because that Me Too shit, I wasn't ready for it, Demos.
Oh, you're very welcome.
But beyond the craziness of our main character, I thought for the characters that we were introduced to, I thought they did a good job of making us kind of identify something with them. We identified something with the main character, Melanie. We identified something with her, I guess, love interest, the fella she's stalking. I'm concerned in a sense because you guys know, like, I'm not, one to forget stuff like all the time, but if I'm not hitting names, it's like, did they really do a good job of landing with the names? It's like I don't know. If I'm looking at all and I've been introduced to a lot of Hitchcock, with the relationship that I've developed with you in the show, I'm not gonna say that it's my favorite Hitchcock, but I see why there's all the love about it. I see why it was so hyped up. But it's not my favorite Hitchcock.
And it's kind of funny that you bring up the characters, because I think that the characters, in a way, are my biggest problem with the film. In fact, I think that the most interesting characters in the whole goddamn film are the damn birds.
Sure. Well, I mean, the movie is in fact called The Birds, and listen, the one thing I could make a joke about, it takes us what, like 30 minutes to see an actual bird get even remotely violent, and then 45 for the shit to really go down. But I think for me to complain about that cheapens that this was obviously done on purpose. It's called The Birds, and you're wondering why it's the birds the whole time, when really it starts to feel like a bit of a greatest hits Hitchcock album at first. Like, oh, we got our blonde, and we have our mysterious thing, and then we have our creeper stalker moment, and all this other stuff. And like, you're going down the list, and then suddenly, wait a minute, who put this new shit on the stage? That's of course, that's obviously the Cole attack. I'm like, listen, this ain't Fabio riding on a damn, roller coaster. What the hell's going on right now? No one's gonna get that reference either.
That's the sequel. Oddly enough, they did make a TV movie sequel, obviously without Hitchcock's involvement. He was dead by then, probably for the best, if you ever saw that bastardization.
But you're not making that up.
No, I'm not making that up. You're right. It's a very important fact that it takes about 30 minutes before, if not even longer, before you see a bird attack. But that's because you want to set up the characters. In my opinion, I didn't find many of the characters as investing. I didn't want to spend as much time with these people. The only character that I felt any sympathy towards, I felt like a connection to, was the school teacher, Anne, the ex-lover. And successfully so, because her death, when she does die, spoilers, when she does die, it is the most successfully tragic scene in the film. But also, the one character that suddenly disappears, I really didn't care. If Melanie died because of the birds, I'm saying she had it coming.
Damn.
If I look at Anne, right? So Anne is the one character where we kind of get a reason why.
Exactly.
So I look at Melanie. I don't know why she is the way that she is, and her beau. I don't know why he. But Anne came to the bodega for the guy. Didn't leave. She just. We find out why. I find out more about her. So I felt more invested because I'm like, dang, she just got jilted by some run of the mill gigolo that think he Humphrey. He ain't Humphrey.
I understand, man. That is the man that brandished the time machine, brother. You better step back.
And was the voice of Pongo, the Dalmatian in 101 Dalmatians.
Sure, that's what I'm focused on.
The real story of the birds, not the birds. The birds they're the MacGuffin. The true story of the birds, the real underlying story is Mitch and the birds around him. Birds, euphemism for the women around him. This is the third film in Hitchcock's, or as I like to call it, the problematic mother trilogy. North and Northwest, Psycho, and The Birds.
Hold on.
Wow.
The North by Northwest mother isn't problematic. She's problematic.
But it explores the relationships between women and their sons, to different degrees. And in this one, it's actually far, far more on the forefront than these other films. The entire film is really about Mitch. You have the overbearing mother, the mother hen, if I may be so bold as to say. You have Melanie, the free spirit, the uncaged woman. You have the ex-lover, and then you have the younger sister. All these four women have different connections and dependencies on Mitch. And everything with the birds, there's no explanation to why they're attacking. That's not the story. They're just there to set up the circumstances to how this melodrama plays out.
Oh, it's Melanie. Melanie is the reason. She did this. They didn't do this before you got here.
Oh, that's so good. Well played, TJ. That was a great delivery by you. That's it. I'll clap.
Melanie, I mean, if you think about it, what's the very first thing that happens in the film when she's walking by? Somebody whistles at her, right? Just as you would whistle to a bird. She's dressed in green, has blonde hair. She looks like a fucking canary to begin with.
Actually, one could argue she looks like a parrot and then starts barking back what she's heard about describing birds when she's questioned by the protagonist of the time machine.
more or less. Out of most of Hitchcock's films, like when you watch a film, especially a psychological thriller like Psycho, or you watch Vertigo, these films come with an expectation of being layered. And The Birds, I think that a lot of people overlook how deeply layered this film is because of all these set pieces. They're some of the most elaborate set pieces that Hitchcock ever did. Some more successful than others, and definitely set pieces that have been inspirational to other directors. Spielberg, for instance. I was talking about this with Kyle the other day. A lot of inspiration came from The Birds to Spielberg's early work. The phone booth scene goes directly into Duel, where there's another dangerous phone booth scene outside of a diner. You have Jaws, man versus nature, in a small kind of airy town. I think one of the biggest differences, though, between The Birds and Jaws is that this is a story where the characters don't necessarily have a victory over nature. Rod Taylor doesn't blow up the birds at the end. The entire story is basically them just evading said danger.
At any point in time, did any of y'all see them get violent with the birds? Like, I'm sitting here waiting for somebody to open up a bat or a gun or a rock. Like, when I saw Melanie finally get attacked to the point to where she fell down outside of the door, she fought him more whenever she came to from being unconscious than she fought the birds in the room upstairs. Like, I just do they not? Are they afraid to fight a bird? I'll punch a bird in the face.
Guys.
I want to see TJ's version of The Birds, where he just sees them pecking around and he just starts bashing them.
Here, one thing we've learned, and my wife and I have talked about this, if TJ's in a lot of situations, there wouldn't be a lot of movies. Like, if I'm in The Birds and then all of a sudden a bird, look, first off, you're not gonna catch my black ass on the water to begin with. But if I was gonna go to the shark's house and the bird hit me in my head to the point to where I started bleeding, oh shit, we getting out of the bodega, baby.
Why you got to be so aquaphobic all the damn time, man? What the
Why
shit?
do I have to be aquaphobic, Kyle? Why do I have to be okay, Kyle? Here's what's gonna happen. I'm gonna go out into the water. I'm gonna get bit by a shark, and then I'm gonna tell you, Kyle, you better feel sorry for me because I went to the shark's house and he bit me, and now you got to feel sorry for me.
So let me tell you, I would do exactly that. But here's the problem: as I'm feeling sorry for you, I would have to laugh just a little bit because I'm 50 plus dives in. You don't see coming back with no teeth marks. I'm just saying.
You're right. You're right.
But if you think about it, if birds ever became as agitated or as dangerous as they were in this film, I think they would be far scarier than sharks. At least sharks, hey, avoid the water. Done. Yeah. Birds, they'll follow you everywhere. I mean, and this one didn't even include anything like you didn't see eagles and hawks and vultures swooping down. Try fighting that off.
Wait a minute. Did you just make Jaws the Aquaman of villains?
I did.
Stay out of the water.
Better now. Talking that kind of shit. You better not come back to Florida. I mean, listen, don't even go near a SeaWorld. You saw what happened in Jaws 3.
Unfortunately, Florida, it's not like it's, surrounded by the 3 deadliest sharks in the world. For example. But what I find really funny is I just want to cap off Melanie for a second is the fact that she is this free spirit. She does. This is one of the few films that, and for the most part, I think that Hitchcock avoided, or at least always had a better reason for characters to walk into danger. Like Cary Grant, he had to go clear his name. He didn't have a choice. Jimmy Stewart, he was obsessed with his loved one, his lost love in Vertigo. This woman, she's downstairs. She hears what might be birds in the attic and decides not to wake anybody up, walk in, and then essentially the feathered version of the psycho shower scene plays out.
More or less.
She just took it, and she took it.
It's nature.
She didn't fight back.
It's nature's ultimate prank on her. I'm telling you. She used the birds at the beginning of the film to try to lure a mate. It didn't work out very well. And then eventually the birds decide, you know what, we'll help you out. We're going to peck you to death. And suddenly at the end of the film, everybody's going to be happy. The mother's going to accept you. In fact, it could even be argued that the moment that the agitation between her and the mother stops, that's when the birds stop attacking.
The other thing that kind of ruined this movie for me is Finding Nemo.
What?
Because hear me out.
I was expecting high anxiety, but go.
Not this time. The offending movie in question, the birds, the manner of birds that attacked were crows and gulls. Gentlemen, if at no time in this movie you didn't wonder what it'd be like if in the soundtrack you heard mine. Mine. What can I say except you're welcome? Ha! Okay.
Oh no. But what do you think? What do you think of if viewed from the perspective that the story is about Mitch and the women in his life, with the bird situation galvanizing these women to actually confront each other and have this melodrama? Do you think that it's do you think it's a stronger film upon this realization, or?
I don't know, man. I feel like the idea was to draw you in, and I'm gonna put a big spoiler alert on multiple shows at once. So if you've not seen Game of Thrones or The Birds at this point, you're gonna want to throttle back here. But like I really kind of feel like he's trying to personally get you vested in watching the first 30 to 45, and then the Kathy's Party is this movie's version of the Red Wedding. Now, while the protagonists remain alive, you stop giving a shit about the human beings at that point, and the main character is, in fact, the birds. That's a fact. But I think what they're trying to do to set up your man is, in my opinion, my interpretation of what they're trying to do. That's their job to explain that if they haven't yet, whatever. My interpretation of what I got sampling the film is that was all just to set up for the here they come bitches moment of Kathy's party, and the red birthday party takes place. And from that moment on, who you care about is, Daenerys Seagull and Tyrion Crow. That's really who you care about at that point. And are they going to take this humans out? Is that what's going to happen?
When I was young, it's one thing that stayed consistent from the moment I watched it when I was young to now is that I never got invested with these characters. North and Northwest, you had Cary Grant. He is effortlessly charming. Psycho, Janet Leigh. Actually, the whole point of Psycho was for you to get invested with her. Even after she disappears from the film, Norman Bates is an intriguing character.
At that point, right, Norman Bates becomes the master.
Yeah. This film, with the exception of Anne, to a degree, I didn't. This lady, Melanie, I never became invested with her. I kept expecting a comeuppance.
Yes.
Rod Taylor, he was fine, but he wasn't anything, anything particularly interesting in my opinion. And I don't think it's the actor's fault. But I think it became invested in its own idea too much. I mean, it set up some very good relationship dynamics, but you never really became invested in the characters themselves to play on those dynamics as best as they could. The
gray nature of Melanie and the focus being around her, you're waiting for that comeuppance. I think you nailed it. And listen, though it plays out a little bit, you see a little bow wow wow yippee-o yippee-yay coming out of Mitch, from all the stories and all the women that be talking. You don't see enough of him to know whether you're supposed to like him or not. So that's tough, man. It's so lukewarm with Mitch. It's hard for me to buy that the layers are surrounding him as the central character. I can't do it. Oh, sure, the layers are there, but Christ, if you make a parfait with with chocolate and toothpaste, I'm not bloody interested.
Mint chocolate.
Shit, I really should have seen that coming.
Just like Melanie when she went up to the attic.
Boom.
Since we've kind of set up that this is a film that really, what makes it or breaks it is the strength of its set pieces. I think it's very easy to start with the attack on the schoolyard, with Melanie sitting unaware that the birds are collecting behind her.
Look, I put myself in their shoes for a second. You're sitting there. When you first sit down, I mean, obviously you've already seen everything going on with the birds. They're acting peculiar. You sit down. There's a couple behind you, and then you turn around and there's a whole murder of birds behind you, man. It's a murder. So I mean, it's trippy. And then I don't understand why they left. The school looked like a church. I'm gonna make me run away. Make me run, because that was leading the lambs to slaughter, man. I mean, those kids didn't have a shot. I honestly thought all of them were Forrest Gump legs, man, except for they didn't have the wheels that Forrest had. Like they couldn't move like Forrest moved, but they were all catching heat. The woman said it when they were at the restaurant. If birds are really trying to come after us, there is no escaping it. That right there, to me, is the scariest part, because when she's describing what birds can do to us and how we're outnumbered, that right there is scary.
Have you ever seen birds attacking? I mean, you made jokes earlier about just punching them away, but that's a lot easier to say than it is. I mean,
it is a lot easier to say, Demos, and I've got clipped a couple times because I'm a tall guy, and birds think that I'm coming for the nest, man. So I've got clipped a couple times. It's not funny, Demos, because but nah. So it is a lot easier to say I would punch a bird in the face, but they're so fast. And what I will say is this: if I get my hands on the bird, I'm not thinking about PETA. All right, I'm thinking about Bojangles. Holla at your boy.
I can't blame them. When I was in Buffalo a couple years ago, they had the big Buffalo Wing Festival, and I've never seen a town so devoid of pigeons that the day they had that festival, it's like they can sense their brethren getting cooked by the thousands.
Yeah, they smell it. It's disgusting and awesome at the same time.
Hey, they had a souvlaki flavored chicken wing, which is absolutely. I think it won the best award.
How in the hell you do souvlaki wings? What? Okay.
There's some mysteries in life where you just don't ask why, you just accept.
Bullshit. I need that mystery.
The chimney attack, I thought, for me, it's one of the scenes that I don't feel like as many people talk about as much. One of the few times that Hitchcock used what could be described as a jump scare. That scene alone, I'm still mystified by. It is terrifying.
That right there, that was a nerve-wrenching moment right there, because I don't know what I'd do in that situation. You can't punch all those birds.
It's one of the few scenes where the effects aren't as prevalent. Like, there are some scenes, even the schoolhouse scene, you can tell like there are animated birds or so forth. But in this one scene, I'm still dumbfounded by it. It is that scene alone, to me, is far scarier than the later scenes where they're trying to peck through the door, because if that's the birds, there is no escape.
I'm finna take my chimney out right now. I'm glad I saw this movie, man. We're trying to find a contractor for it, and I see this movie. I'm like, we're doing it right. No.
So, all in all, with all of that being said, do you guys think that for its strengths and its flaws, that The Birds is required viewing?
Hitchcock is my dude. I have a newfound respect for him, and anytime you start off by giving a compliment, it's usually followed by something negative. I see what the hype was about. Like I said, it was a film. I had the peaks and valleys with Melanie. There were times where I didn't want to strangle her because I feel like that's a really bad image. But there are times that I wanted to throw pocket sand at her. Something non-violent, but nonetheless.
Feathers. Throw feathers at her.
There you go.
Of course, it might put her in PTSD. You might affect that.
No, look, she don't like birds now. Like, she wants to go somewhere where there are no trees, so there are no birds ever.
No more Fridays at the pet store.
No more.
Damn.
But the thing about it is, the pet store owner, I don't think she really liked her anyway, because she kept trying to get her to deliver it, and the woman's like, "No, you're coming here," and she's like, "No, you just deliver it." Nah. Nonetheless, I have to say, it is a film that I think people can watch if you want to get upset and see, what folks did back in the 1960s, apparently, when they had nothing but time on their hands, because on Monday you do one thing, on Fridays you go to pet stores. Look, it's definitely something to watch, but I don't think it's required. I think you can be a movie buff without this one.
Or at least realize how trusting the people of Bodega Bay were in the 60s, apparently.
I think that's just a cool name for a city. I would like to live there.
Oh, hell yeah. You can take a boat out on the lake, get in touch with nature, literally.
That's right. I'm going to be consistent as I have been with Hitchcock. What are the two things I say that you need to get your drinking game ready for, along with your experience experience description and the foundation argument from Demos? It's a string of events woven together with a plot. And I don't know how that, from what I heard, it was tough for Hitchcock. He had more than one wife, if I remember correctly, right?
Mm-mm.
No?
Married to the same woman his entire life.
Well, I don't understand how, because this guy cannot handle a climax worth of shit. These endings suck, man. That's all you got for me? Oh, we're going to tippy toe out to the car. You. Give me something. Maybe those two lovebirds fly out and escape and become sacrificial lambs to the other birds so they have just enough time to escape. Give me something. Anything but.
I'm not going to get into the argument about how you're dead wrong about the ending of Vertigo. We've already covered that. Watch the episode. However, I want to see if the alternate ending, if they could have filmed it, if it would have made a difference. All right. There was supposed to be another ending after what you saw, where they make it out to San Francisco, and the final image of the film would have been the Golden Gate Bridge covered in birds.
Holy shit.
But they couldn't afford to do it.
Had they ended it the way that you just said, my review of the film would be different.
You think so?
Trying. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Still improved. Maybe not still required reading, but that would.
No, but it'd be different.
Bro, if think about that, because TJ, I'm gonna go out on a limb and speak for both of us. We were both captivated about how one crow became murder. That's the case that they gave you, right? Okay, and that was just on a fucking jungle gym. You Golden Gate Bridge that shit.
I think that my more recent viewing of the birds definitely improved the film significantly in my eyes. Taking a step back and looking at the picture as a whole, I can understand why it's one of the more accessible of the Hitchcock films. On its uppermost layer, it's a monster movie, quote unquote, that the masses can enjoy. But upon digging a little deeper and discovering some of the other layers, I will say that I was a little bit more invested than I was before, but it also made a lot of the flaws just stand out a lot more because I could see so much more potential behind it. I would not say it's required viewing. I will definitely say it's recommended viewing, especially for some of these set pieces. We didn't even talk about too much about the diner scene or some of the other more famous sections of the film. But as a whole, it doesn't really, I wouldn't consider it one of my favorites. What did you guys think? Was it one of your favorite Hitchcock films? Do you think it's a bit on the weaker side? Let us know in the comments below.
Listen, I'm not going to give this movie 2 birds, but one could argue that there's some parts that are for the birds. But now I'll let all the puns lay out to nest. At any rate, you can find me on Twitter as The Student of the Game, of course, on Facebook as The Student of the Game as well. The SOTG on Twitter. What am I talking about? And then on Instagram, the SOTG. And find my works and greatness on hilaritybydefault.com. Blue HQ Media also has breakthefourth.com, where you'll find some stuff from me from there as well. Also, by the way, start looking on sportsmediapass.com and breakthefourth.com. You'll be seeing me and TJ's production known as Dinner Time. And then also the NFL season's upon us here very shortly. The Dolphins Wire of USA Today is what you find me doing my work week in, week out.
Sounds good, man. And TJ, thanks a lot for being here. Always a treat to have you on Default Assault.
Brother, thanks for having me, Kyle. Always a pleasure. Shouts out to everybody, man. TJ here. Tokeo J. You can follow me on Twitter, TOKEOJ. Same thing on Snapchat if you want to see how I'm living.
Looking forward to that. And of course, you can find me on hilaritybydefault.com, where we have fun stuff every week. On Facebook and Instagram, Hilarity by Default, and on Twitter at Default Hilarity. This is Demosthenes saying, find us here every Thursday where life is hilarious by default.